Passing game is 27, tied at 69. Welch above the timeline. Now to Keller. 9 seconds left in the game. Cool spins, reverse layup. Good. Basket counts and a foul. Basket counts. Cool baseline. The reverse layup, and he goes to the line. 6 seconds to go. Versus angle left. Keller with it, 80 to 74. Oklahoma State leads Kansas 36-22 in the first half, outscoring Air Force 24-10 in that time. And they've made it a 4-point game with 1:07 to go. 34 left in the game. UNLV has the lead, 37-36. Timeout. News Radio 740 KVOR. In to Gerlach, layup good, basket count and a foul. He caught UNLV sleeping. He drove to the lane and AJ with a beautiful pass. Layup good and Gerlach to the line. It is an electric atmosphere here at Clune Arena.
It is now my great pleasure to present the 2003-2004 Mountain West Conference Men's Basketball Championship Trophy to the Air Force Academy.
2004 Mountain West Conference regular season champion Air Force Falcons, and the Falcons stand at midcourt and they parade around the trophy handed to them moments ago by the commissioner of the Mountain West Conference, Craig Thompson, and listen to the roar. What a sight this is as Air Force now poses for some team photos, and the camera people as they sit and hold the Mountain West Conference regular season title, and the look on Joe Scott's face is priceless. And 11-2 in the Mountain West Conference, and they are going to go over and celebrate with the cadets, and Joe Scott holds that trophy up. And what a moment for Joe Scott. He has worked so hard. He brought a system and a belief into Colorado Springs that nobody thought would work except for Joe Scott and his coaching staff. What a moment here. They have already handed out Mountain West Conference regular season champion t-shirts and Air Force on the back of them, Air Force hats, and the team now standing, and they're proud as Scott climbs the ladder to snip the last segment of net to celebrate the 2003-2004 Mountain West Conference regular season title. My gosh, what a moment.
Welcome, Hispanic Chamber members, our community. What a great night we're going to have, and the great opportunity we have to have cocktails and conversation with Air Force men's head basketball coach, Joe Scott, on his return to resurrect Air Force basketball here in Colorado Springs. We'd like to thank tonight our event sponsor, the Institute for Veterans and Military Families, for allowing us and help to make this happen, and all of the guests that are online tonight to listen to a very casual talk with Joe Scott and learn about his life, what he's going to do to rebuild Air Force basketball, and some very interesting other questions that I have for him that he hopefully he's ready for. But I'm going to give a brief intro to Joe here, a little bit about his background, and then we're just going to dive right into the questions, have a casual conversation, drink a cocktail, and just shoot the breeze here. But Joe Scott led Air Force men's basketball from 2001 to 2004 to unprecedented heights. And now he's returning once again to lead the program, which was announced on March 31st by Director of Athletics Nathan Pine. Joe's a veteran of 29 years in the coaching ranks and 16 as a head coach. Scott returns to the academy after spending the last 2 seasons as assistant coach at Georgia. Scott, who in 2013 was tabbed one of the nation's top 20 X's and O's coaches in a survey of his peers by ESPN's Jeff Goodman, was also head coach at Princeton, his alma mater, for 3 campaigns, and Denver for 9 seasons. Scott first came to the academy in 2001, taking over a program that had not had a winning season in 22 years and led it to new levels of success. In just 4 seasons, he led the Falcons to their only Mountain West regular season title, first NCAA appearance in 42 years, a top 25 national ranking, and then a school record 22 wins. He was named Mountain West Coach of the Year, National Association of Basketball Coaches Coach of the Year, and finished 4th in the balloting for Associated Press National Coach of the Year in 2004. Scott compiled a 22-4 record at home over his final 2 seasons, including a 3-0 mark in 2003-2004. Attendance surged by more than 300% during his time leading the Falcons. Please welcome the return of Air Force men's head basketball coach, Joe Scott. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, Joe, thank you very much. Great to see you. I really appreciate you having me on, and I'm really looking forward to spending time with you and all the people joining on the Zoom call. So great idea, like you're saying, conversation and cocktail to just sort of, revisit maybe some old times, but also talk about what we're really concentrating on, which is the future and Air Force basketball going forward.
Well, I'm excited, Joe, as an Air Force Academy alumnus. It was great to hear of your return to our basketball program. And, I trust in being able to work with you when I was at the Air Force Academy prep school and saw what you did, and very excited about the prospects of rebuilding and resurrecting our Air Force basketball program. But one of the first questions I'd like to ask you is, when this position became available, was Air Force even on the radar to return as head coach? And how did that process kind of develop?
Well, I mean, what I try to do, like you mentioned earlier, I was an assistant at Georgia, in the SEC, and really was just helping coach our team and not concerned with any of those things. Obviously, always was wanted, working to be a head coach again. I mean, that's where I think my real strength comes. But, obviously when it occurred, I just thought it was sort of a no-brainer. I know for myself, for my family, for my wife, for my 2 sons, for us and our experience here in the Springs and at the Academy was one of the greatest experiences we've had. The people, and it really about the people, the place, the people make the place. And, our memories and we've always held this place, in such high regard. And as you go through life and you have different experiences, you really get to know that those feelings and those experiences, you really know that, man, they were real. They were the right ones for us. And, we're just extremely fortunate. We're extremely grateful to have this opportunity again. And we're extremely grateful to be in this environment at this great institution with the people that we know, and just fortunate to at 55 be able to come back in this situation and actually know people, know the fans, know Brian German, Troy Garnhart, people at the Academy, Frank Serratori. For me to know those people and them to know me, it makes this a much, much easier transition at this juncture. And I think that helps me be a better coach.
Yeah, exactly. And I know the fans are waiting for this. I mean, when I heard about it, I said, this is the right fit at the right time, I believe. But one other thing I'd like to know, looking at the history and your upbringing, I know you played at Princeton. You were a tremendous player there, but then you went on to Notre Dame Law School and became a personal injury lawyer. What made you go that route? And then all of a sudden you make another transition and you say, hey, I want to coach college basketball.
Well, I mean, I knew I always wanted to coach. But at the same time, I was drawn to be the law. I got into Notre Dame Law School. I tried to be a graduate assistant at Notre Dame. Digger Phelps was the coach at the time. He only hired his former players. So it was one of those situations where, after my second year, I knew I wanted to coach, but you're in law school. So you have to go do your internship. And then when you graduate, well, you got to take the bar. You have to finish what you start, basically. And then once you pass the bar, well, you got to go have the experience of whatever that is to be a lawyer. And that's what I did. I actually, to your point, it's funny in this day and age, I actually our firm represented Trump's casinos in New Jersey.
Oh,
So
okay.
what I did was personal injury work for Trump's casinos. And after 8 months, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. My father was a college baseball coach, a junior college baseball coach, health and phys ed and head athletic trainer at the junior college in our town. And so I was around athletics my whole life. And after 8 months, I just called up Coach Carrill, who was my college coach, who's in the Hall of Fame, and said, I'm going into coaching. And I was fortunate enough to have a very good relationship with him where he was helpful. And, from there, I was able to do it. And I wasn't married. I didn't have any, I didn't have children, didn't have a family. I wasn't married. So I could actually do whatever it was I wanted to do at that juncture without having to think about other things. So, again, I think it comes down to the people. I was just really lucky to have Coach Carrill, have the people, have Princeton basketball, which has been so good for so long, behind me. And, we were able to move forward from there.
Right. And as you made that transition, your first stint was at Monmouth, and then you went on to Princeton. What were some of those highlights at Princeton as an assistant coach and working for Pete Carrill? I mean, because he was an icon based on the offensive philosophy that he developed. What was that like? During that time for you, breaking into those coaching ranks and working for somebody like that.
Yeah. Well, the best part was there's only I think there's 2 or 3 people who actually played for Coach Carrill and coached for him and worked for him. So, the best part was obviously as a player, you play for him and you go through that experience as a player and you know him as a coach. And I then got to know him as, his assistant coach and seeing the other side of it. So that was just has really made me the coach who I am. It all came from playing for him, but then working for him, seeing what you do every day and why we do what we do. And, putting those pieces together, how the dots connect. And so that was an unbelievable experience. And then, again, during that time, we were very fortunate. We were really, really good. I mean, we were top 25, top 15, 1998. We were 7th in the country. 27-1, 24-4. We were just really good players. And we had some unbelievable experiences and games. And, at the time I remember saying to myself, and I always felt this way as a player, the way we do things is, and I just said this to our team today, Joe, we do what we do so we concentrate on what we do so that we never think about the other team. We don't care who we're playing. We don't even know the name of their school. We don't care. We only care about Air Force and what Air Force does and how Air Force does it. And that's our measuring stick. Are we measuring up to ourselves? And that was Princeton basketball. That's Pete Carrill. That's how you go out there and somebody says, how'd you beat him? How do you do it? Well, we know how we do it. I just said to you that's how you do it. You don't concentrate and think about your opponent. You have a way of doing things yourself where you zero in on your own organization and everything that you believe in. And you get in this case, your players, and in our case, our cadet athletes, to believe in that, to know that's who we are. And then you bleed that, you live it, you bleed it. It comes through your pores. And like I said to our team today, the fans see that. The fans see it. They see, and that doesn't mean you're winning every game, but what it means is they know it when they see it, and they know that there's a plan, and they know there's a belief in that plan, and they can see the passion behind that. And that's what turns, I think, I know that turns Air Force fans on. They just want to see, they want to see that. And if they see, it's like, okay, we got a chance, and we're playing to win. And, I learned all that growing up, but I learned that from a basketball sense from Coach Krill.
One of the things I noticed in watching Air Force basketball in recent years is the passion and the mannerisms show through the players and the way they're being coached. And I remember when you coached, that passion and that leadership and that kind of grit and determination, it showed through our players. I'm remembering players like AJ Cool and Antoine Hood and Matt McGraw, and just that fire that they had, to succeed, and probably to play above their talents at times, just because of the passion that I believe that you instilled in them, to play the game the right way, and play it hard. And I think that's what I see comes through, from head coaches. Sometimes the players mimic the mannerisms and style of the head coach. And sometimes it's more of a laid back, and you can see it on the court, and you go, well, what's going on with the team? There's no fire, no passion on their play. And sometimes I think that's an extension of the head coach and how they are being developed. So are you going to kind of have that same philosophy and say, hey, we need to have some fire and brimstone type approach to how we play, and you need to show it on the court for 40 minutes?
Well, I mean, I can only be I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be myself. Funny, I'm not 35 anymore. People, it's 20 years later, and how have you changed? So the game's changed, and okay, well, I have 20 years of experiences to change, to help shape my change and my evolution personally. But I'm still going to be myself. I mean, because what you said is true. I mean, teams take on the personality of their coach, and our guys we're going to be tough. We're going to play hard. We're going to be unselfish. We are going to have to use that word. We are going to have grit, that grit and that fight. And again, I just said it to our team yesterday. That is Air Force. That's the essence of Air Force. So, is it, you said earlier, right time, right place, right person situation? For me, it's, the strength of Air Force and Air Force basketball has to be everything you just said: the fight, the grit, the fire, the belief, and the never stopping, the never believing, the never quitting. And behind all that, there are X's and O's that back up. Yeah, we do have a way to play. We do have a way to win. But first and foremost is going to be that passion, that belief, and it's got to come from the players, and if it's going to come from the players, it has to be inside the coach and coaches. I feel really fortunate to have the staff that I'm fortunate to, my wife said this through my career. I have Sidney Johnson, our associate head coach, who I coached for 4 years at Princeton when I was an assistant. Then, I have Mark Holland, who has been at Air Force, but was captain of the, one of the things
with your team,
and captain when they went in 06 to the NCAA tournament. One of the things I'm really proud of is after I left, Joe, we kept winning. Those guys kept knowing what to do. And Mark was captain of that team, and now he's coaching. So a player. And then when I was at Denver, we won the WAC. We beat Utah State. We beat New Mexico State. We were good, and I hired Cam Griffin.
Okay.
So through all those times, I have former players, and then my last 4 years, which are going to be are extremely instrumental for me and how I've grown. I hired 2 young guys who were really important to me during those 4 years. So just lucky to have the staff, and it's just not my passion. It's their passion. It's because every one of them is going to touch our players, and everyone that touches our players are going to have the same passion I have. We truly believe in what we're doing. We truly believe in this institution. And we know when you get that synergy between what Air Force stands for and that basketball team's playing the same way, you know what? We'll take our chances, and we're playing to win, and that other team's going to know we're playing to win. And I'm not saying we're going to beat them, but they're going to know they're playing against Air Force and they're in for a battle. And that's the kind of team and program that we're going to work to put out there every single night.
Right. That's great to hear. And I know you mentioned Mark Holland, and he's been tied to Air Force basketball for several years now. And, had you thought about trying to bring somebody like him on your staff, or did just things work out and you said, Mark is still here and he might be a good fit for the program? How did that kind of take place when you were filling some of those last positions?
Yep, I thought about it, and as we keep going forward, Joe, those elements of what we did prior, how we were successful prior, we're going to bring those elements back. So I'm hopeful that going forward, there's another former player that comes back. And he still might be. I'm hopeful that he's still in the military and he's still wearing the uniform, but he's a basketball player and he lived and breathed and died Air Force basketball. But he's a leader of character in the Air Force today, leading, the Air Force. And if we can do that, then we're going to do that, and Mark's still a major. He was down at the prep school. Right. I just knew that that's what our players need. That's what our, cadet athletes need. They need to see that we believe in that, and that's who we are. And basketball is important, and we're going to work like you can't believe, because we love basketball. But the academy and basketball go together. And I think having those elements on your staff show our players that, and I don't have to say it then. Or when I do say it, they know I'm telling the truth, because it's right there.
You have a player that played for you that's experienced from the prep school all the way through your program. And when he speaks, I think these players better listen, because he's speaking from experience. Say, this is how it needs to be done. I think that was a great pickup for him to be your assistant. When I was down at the Air Force prep school as the athletic director, and you came in, believe in 2001 as the head coach, did you know about the Air Force prep school and the fact that, you could leverage the program there to help build what you thought would be the future of Air Force basketball? Or when you got here, you said, there's Air Force prep school. They have a basketball program. How did you, use the prep school to help the success of the program?
That is the program. It's the lifeblood of the program. And, the extent that I knew about it, I knew about it. I didn't know the ins and outs. But when I got here, I was really fortunate to have, Dean Christian was the military assistant up at the academy. So I was able through him to learn as much as I can about it. And then, once I knew that, I immediately said, okay, this is what we're doing. There's going to be my coach down there, and we're going to do what we do, and we're going to recruit there, and that's going to be the lifeblood. And, during your time when you were there, Joe, you saw, I think the first year, Holland was on Timmy Keller. Timmy Keller came in. Holland was part of that group. They won 23 games.
Yes.
They never won 20. They never seen that. So, and Tommy Dixon was the guy who was the coach.
Yes, he was the coach at the time.
He left after 1 year, but Tommy was a phenomenal person. And then I was able to bring Dean back after a year, and we just, that's the advantage we have. The prep school is an advantage. It gets the guys ready for the academy. It gets them ready for academics. It gets them ready for the military aspect of the school. And just as importantly, it prepares them basketball wise. And we make them be part of our program. It's right on the campus. And, all the guys, you can name the guys, they were down there, and there were some really good teams at the prep school, and those kids came up and they were the foundation of all the success that came. There were some kids straight in, like AJ Cool came directly.
Gerlach,
Jake Birchie came straight in, and Joel Gerlach. Mm-hmm. Every other guy pretty much went the prep school route. But
and I know developing that Princeton office, when I was observing practices, it takes a while to learn it and learn it the right way. And having that ability to do it at the prep school for 25 to 30 games, I think it helps, because then they're ready to make that next step and at least understand the philosophy of that Princeton offense that you had implemented, which I think that, in my opinion, still, I think for how Air Force can be competitive, I think that still some aspects of that can help us be successful.
Well, Joe, I will say this too. One thing I'll add to that is, and I think you can attest to this too, but is a lot of times people bring up the Princeton offense, but we play defense and we guard, and there's an element of it comes from our offense, the discipline of that, the tenacity of it, the execution of it. Well, those guys go down and play defense the same way, and sometimes I think that gets overlooked. That there's going to be both ends of the court being played, and it's going to be just as much our defense. And the better that is, the more it helps our offense, and the more our offense helps our defense. But there's definitely that part, and I know our fans remember that man, the guy, they play D, they guard, they go after the ball. There's an intensity and a competitiveness to how they play defense, and that's going to be something that we really make sure we do again.
Right. And I remember, the patience that those teams showed on offense throughout a game, especially when you're playing at home, that wears down the opponent, because they're having to come down each time and play a 20-second or more possession every time, and that starts to wear on the team. And then just the discipline that, like you say, you show on offense, they have to guard, which when you put both of those together, they got to play some tough defense. And then, they have to show the same on the offensive end of the court when they're defending us. So, I mean, I think that is a perfect recipe. Talking about that, has your coaching philosophy and style, evolved and changed? Or, are you going to continue to implement that system with Air Force, or have you learned some more nuances and different ways of implementing that system?
No, we definitely have new ways and nuances. And I think, again, sometimes people think, they say the word Princeton offense. And to be honest, Joe, I don't even know what that is. What I know is how we play, how we teach it, what adjustments we've made, what adaptations we've made, what tweaks we've made through the years because of changing game, the way the game's changed, changing players of today's era, changing, shot clock, rules, whatever it is, all those things. It's not the Princeton offense for me. It's a way of playing basketball, teaching basketball, and most importantly, getting your players to know it and believe in it and having it become who they are. And I think that shows through in how a team plays. If you see them executing, if you see them, cutting so hard and moving the ball and sharing the ball so well together, that's just called playing basketball. So it's not the Princeton offense. And, people like to put names to things, they like to say, oh, that's what this is. And I think I'm glad they do that, because I think people in the Mountain West are going to think they know what we're going to be doing, and no, they're not going to have any idea what we're doing. And that's on both ends of the court. You'll see similarities, you'll recognize, you'll know it, but it's not going to, even our players, if you asked our players, like, whoa, this is completely different than anything, we've been doing. And that's a positive. And I think our guys can grab onto that and make it their own. And that's what it's really about. It's about our guys making it their own and the coaches helping them make it their own.
You know, I saw a lot of your practices during your first time here at the academy, and this is kind of a little levity. Are you going to be that high strung vocal intense guy at practice, or have you kind of become a little bit more mild mannered as you've aged?
Yes, I think obviously what you just said is definitely true. I'm the same competitive, passionate person, but I think the changes that we made have allowed me to have the assistants take ownership and do a lot of the coaching, which helps develop them as coaches. But it also has allowed me to, take a step back, look at it from a different view and a different picture. And it's helped me, grow as a coach. So I think all those things go into, and also my experiences over the last, 4 years. I mean, taking a step back, not sitting in that chair and looking at it from a different angle, like not being in the forest, not being so close to the trees, like to step back. All those things have helped. And, when you come to practice, Joe, you'll see that same intensity. You'll see that passion, but you'll see it coming across and I think in a different way. And it's in a way that these kids today and these players today and these cadet athletes today, it's what they need. It's not 2004.
Right.
It's not 2000. It's 2000. But being good is being good is being good.
Mm-hmm.
Those habits that are required and that discipline that's required is still what needs to be developed. And we'll be doing that, and I'll just be doing it in a little different way. But you'll see the same fire and the same passion, but it'll just look a little different.
During your first run, what was the moment or the game or set of games when you said, this is the turning point and I see us making that successful run, and kind of the light bulb went on? You said, okay, we're turning the corner and I know we can get to this level of competitiveness and win the Mountain West Conference. Was there any time during that time you said, here, this is the turning point right here?
I think, well, I can't point to one for me. I can point to three.
Mm-hmm.
One was we were at Cal Berkeley for a Christmas tournament out there in 03, 04. And, we every game we were in, we were always in every game. And it was just a matter of teaching ourselves how to win. And the prior 3 years, we'd be in those games that way and we'd be open and the shot didn't go in. That big shot that would have maybe turned the light bulb on, made the light bulb go on. It didn't go in. It went around and out. And then I remember being at Cal Berkeley, and it was an unbelievable battle against the Pac-12 team. And I mean, you want to talk about defense. I mean, nobody could, so hard fought. And we got down to the end of the game, and I remember, AJ Cool right in front of the bench, ran perfect offense, got everything we wanted. The score's tied. And the ball was going around, and as I was watching it, I was saying, and it's going to go out again. But it went in. It went around and in. And the light bulb went off for our guys. And I didn't know it at the time, but then we went on the road in the Mountain West for our first 2 games. And again, the light bulb hadn't fully gone on, but in game 1 at Colorado State, hard-fought game, close. We hadn't won a road game yet in the Mountain West. And Ty and Antoine Hood, big steal at a key time, goes down, finishes the play and won. And we win the game, so that's on top of the Cal Berkeley. And then the week later, we went to New Mexico in the pit, which Air Force, I don't know if they'd ever won before in the pit. And we gave New Mexico, their worst home loss in the history of the school. So I think those 3 games made me know that we had, but then the following weekend we had BYU at our place in the first home game. And we walked off the court at halftime up like 41-20. BYU never had a chance. Our players just showed over that course of whatever those 2 to 3 weeks were, that they knew the light bulb was going on, and their confidence level and belief in what they were doing and each other was just through the roof. And that was a joy to, like, after what we'd been through for 3 years and building it, to see that was just a joy to see those guys have they stayed with it, so many close losses, like so many, none of those guys, they just persevered, they persisted, stayed with it. And when you do that in life, that's when you find out things like that can happen. And that's why that team was a special team. And that's why the program became from there what it was. There was a belief, and those guys knew they were good. And they knew they were good because of the team. Not one of them thought they were good because of themselves. They knew they were good because of their team. And when you have that, man, you can really do some special things.
We're approaching that time where the Mountain West season should be kicking off. What's the feel, or is there a decision that going to be made on if basketball season will happen in the Mountain West? And if so, what's that going to look like? Is it going to be a reduced schedule? And how are you preparing your team to, for that outcome?
Well, I think next week on Wednesday, September 16th, I think there will be some type of national announcement from the NCAA.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to make a decision either November 25th or December 1st. They're going to push the start of the season back.
Okay.
Don't know which one. And then I think part of that will be minimum games that you need to play to possibly be able to qualify for the NCAA tournament. Everybody's going to be in a different situation, I think, in terms of where their location is, what they can do, playing games. So I think we'll get that information next week, Wednesday. And then from there, we'll know when our first official start date of practice is. I think we'll have to figure out exactly what our non-conference schedule will look like. It won't be what we thought it was going to be. So there'll be a little work in progress with that. And I've been working on those potential things that we can do. And then I think we'll move forward getting ready for that. And then, like we've known over the last 6 months, we'll be playing it week to week, 2 weeks to 2 weeks, to see that hopefully can we keep having things go in the right direction. So whatever the NCAA says, we actually can make that happen.
And based on that, from your perspective, what do you think, in your heart is going to happen? Just based on what you've heard and, how things are evolving.
I think we're going to play. There might be some stops and starts depending on what happens to that school X or school Y.
Right.
But I think the NCAA is going to have protocols, and if you're going to play, you're going to have to follow those protocols. I think in our favor as our sport, they're going to say Thanksgiving, because the majority of schools in this country, if they haven't already, don't have kids on campus. They're going to be sending them home at Thanksgiving, and they're not going to be coming back until sometime in second week of January. So there is that window to really be able to say we are going to play and control that environment as best you can. And then, from there, we'll see that where it takes us. But I know the NCAA is really sincere about doing this, and then making sure there's an NCAA basketball tournament in March, and hopefully that can look the way that we were used to seeing it look. But there'll probably be something will happen, and a team might have to go out and a team will win. But I feel good that in the sport of basketball, because the NCAA does sort of own basketball, we will have a plan that we're going to have basketball. Whereas I think football with the FCS,
right,
NCAA doesn't really control that, so they've been all over the board. But basketball, we're going to have a streamlined approach, and I think that's going to help us be able to then pull it off as best we can.
So do you think, once that season starts, I'm confident it will, do you think Clune Arena will have fans at a limited capacity, or are we going to do the NBA and have images and crowd noise blaring in? What do you think?
Those are the things I think that need to be determined. And again, I think as you see in, say, football, last night the Chiefs had 17,000 fans there, so the Broncos, I think they're saying week 3 home opener, they're going to have 5,700 fans. I can't say specifically right here. I know Air Force will do what's best for the athletes, the cadet athletes, and everyone involves health and safety. That being said, I think depending on the state of Colorado, depending on how things are going in different parts of the country, a lot of that's going to be up for sort of individual schools to determine that we can have this much amount of fans. We can't because of whatever's going on, and that's going to be sort of a work in progress, But I know this, Joe, and coaching our guys over the last, like I said earlier, I've been fortunate when you and I were talking. I've been coaching our guys because of our environment and our protocols and the essential element of the mission here. Our guys are in class. They're going to class in person. They're doing every day. They're with their coaches. They're doing their PE. They're doing what the mission is. We're in a little bit of our own bubble. And because of that, I've seen firsthand how important it is to our players. I see the joy it brings them. I see, how important it is to them. And that makes me feel good. But I know it's important that our guys, first and foremost, we're able to maintain that safe environment, follow the protocols so that our players can play. And if after that, a fan can be there to watch it, to me, that's a bonus right now, because those kids all across the country, our guys to me, but I know all over, they need to, to be able to play and compete.
Yeah.
That's really important to these 18 to 22 and 23-year-olds. And hopefully we're going to be able to do that.
Most definitely. If they don't allow fans, and if I follow the health protocols and everything, can I sit behind the bench and be the water boy?
And come on over. Well, as long as, when I say something, you don't go and tell everybody what I said.
Okay. Going back to that 2004 season, when you're sitting there waiting for that announcement, did you have any idea the seed you'd be, and the fact that you'd play, iconic program like North Carolina? What was that feeling like sitting there? Did you, with your coaching staff, think, I think we might be around this seed, or what was that like? Because I saw it on TV and I almost, exploded, but just being there, what was that like? And who did you think you were going to play, and the seed? A little bit about that storyline.
Yep. I thought at the time we had won the Mountain West by 2 games. At that juncture, and probably for another until San Diego State had one of their runs, in the last 5 years or 10 years, we won the Mountain West by 2 games. Nobody had ever done what we'd done. So there was a little, are we going to get in? Are we not? But, how can you let in, Utah and BYU, these other, when we won the league by 2 games? It wasn't like we squeaked by. So I was confident we were going to get in. I also did feel that if we did, we'd play a game, like you said, because Air Force, it was a story. It's a story, Air Force. And what can that story be? And, Dean Smith was actually an assistant coach at Air Force in 1954, in the 50s. And the NCAA always somehow, some way knows how to put those storylines together. I lived that at Princeton. We always played, unbelievable game. And what I didn't expect was them to put us in the Pepsi Center. And that was, amazing. And you asked earlier about when did the light bulb go on. But another great story was when we walked into the Pepsi Center and there was 18,000 people there, and our guys came walking out in their Air Force sweatsuits. 18,000 people stood up and gave them a standing ovation, and that's something I'll never forget.
Right. I mean,
So I'll never forget when they said Air Force, versus North Carolina on CBS. But just as much, I'll never forget that feeling when, whoa, man, look at this is amazing. And that just goes to show you, the story, but also I think that team had that passion. They brought out that element in the fans, and
I mean, it was just amazing to watch throughout the season, especially getting there, and knowing the type of team that was playing North Carolina. We weren't afraid of them. Matter of fact, we were ahead at the half, if I remember right.
Oh, yeah, we were up 6.
And, people would say, "Well,
North
Carolina."
We were up 2. We were up 2 when the shot clock was going off, and it was a shot clock violation. Yeah. And Raymond Felton threw in a 28-foot 3-pointer as the shot clock went off, and they went up 1, and that sort of like swung it in their favor with about 5 minutes to go. But I know, our guys, that's this league though too, Joe. And if we're able to be successful in this league, and at that time the Mountain West, Utah and BYU were still in the league, but Mountain West, you compete in this league to win this league, and if you're able to do that, well then you're playing against anybody in the country. And for us, I know our guys knew that they were playing that game to win that game, and it didn't matter that it said North Carolina across their jersey. Right. It didn't matter to us. It mattered scouting wise, like what can that guy do, what can this guy do, but it didn't matter in any other way, shape, or form.
Let's kind of switch and talk a little bit about your life. Tell us about your life growing up in Toms River, New Jersey. And your interest in sports, and kind of what brought you from there to where you are today.
Well, like I said earlier, my father was a head junior college baseball coach, head athletic trainer at the junior college. The junior college, Ocean County College, had wrestling, basketball, swimming. It had and I went. My father had to be at every one of those sports. I was at every basketball game. He was taping their ankles. And, I did that from the time I was 3-4 years old. So I was always around it. And, that probably shaped me, just that competitive aspect. And, I played 3 sports all through high school: football, basketball, and baseball. I was a quarterback and safety, and we were good, and shortstop in baseball. So that's who I was, So, and I was just fortunate with that. And then, like I said earlier, to be able to go, be recruited to play at Princeton, to have Coach Carrill coach me and be part of that, that really shaped, those 2 experiences really shaped me. And when this opportunity came, I remember when we were really good at Princeton, and I applied the first time for the job. Randy Spetman was the AD. He was an old former football player at the academy, 76. And I mean, it's a true story. I interviewed for the job at the Final Four, and it came down to me and one other candidate. And I think Colonel Spetman reached out to Dean Smith again, because he was an assistant coach here. He knew all the Princeton stuff.
Right.
But he reached out to Dean Smith because Coach Smith had been an assistant here. Or Coach Smith called him to recommend somebody else. Something like that. And Randy told him what he was thinking, and Dean Smith stopped in his tracks and said, "Oh, Princeton, Pete Carrill guy, huh? Oh, good idea, Randy." And so it's just funny how those things work. There was the Air Force connection of Dean Smith to Carolina that somehow had such respect for Pete Carrill in Princeton that had me end up being here, and it's just, I didn't grow up in a military family. I didn't grow up that way, but it's been such an experience to be part of, like I've said before, a caring place,
Right.
first class place. I'm used to that. To see it at work and at life in the academic and military environment has been an unbelievable experience for myself and my wife and our family, and that's why we really know this is the right place for us.
Well, that's fantastic. As the leader of the Air Force basketball program, what is your philosophy on community outreach and getting the fans to return to Clune Arena? Do you feel it's your role to be out there in the community, going to some community events and engaging our community and say, hey, we want you to be here, versus kind of shifting that philosophy and not just assuming because we're the only Division I school in town, fans are going to come because, the academy's here. What's your philosophy on that?
My philosophy is I believe two things. I believe it's our responsibility to put a product out on that court that those potential fans who are Air Force fans, there are a lot of Air Force people in the Colorado Springs community. It is a military community. But my job is to put a product out there that they can embrace, first and foremost, like we've talked about earlier, that they exhibit the values of what Air Force is, that when they look at that team play, they know they can say, that's our team. Those are our guys. And they can get behind it. As you do that, then part two comes into what you're talking about is I do feel it's our responsibility. And I don't put that, it's not our players. They're doing more than enough.
Right.
Academy. It does fall on me, the administration, to have that plan of where can we go make sure, insert ourselves in those places where the people need to hear that. No matter what, they're going to have to see it. Otherwise, and that happens often. You just go say things and
right.
ooh, and then you go watch. And you're like, what are you talking about? I don't see it. So, but I do know that that's my philosophy. We're going to build this way. You're going to know it when you see it. And then I'm going to go out there and tell the people in the community, like we're doing right now, Joe, that this is who we are. This is what we believe in. This is how we're going to do it. This is the team you're going to see. It represents Air Force. It represents the Academy. And I think those two things together create like a synergy. If you get those two things going together, there's a synergy. And now all of a sudden, people aren't at the games, like you said, because, it's the only Division I team in town. They're at the games because they know that's my team. That's our team. I want to go support those guys. And it doesn't really mean I don't feel this way, Joe. I don't think the Air Force fans think that, we're supposed to win. We're supposed to beat them. No, I think the Air Force fans think I want to see that team out there that I know is tough, is gritty, is hard-nosed, is competing to win, is playing to win. So long as the Air Force fans know that we're playing to win and they can see it, hey, that's their team, and they are there to support and cheer, and usually that leads to more wins.
Definitely.
That's a good way to do it. But I think I think you have to have it those two ways, and it is my responsibility to do that and ours. And I think hopefully as we go forward, we can do that. It hasn't been the greatest of environment, obviously.
Right. Exactly.
Circumstances have dictated that we can't do those things. And it's unfortunate because it could have been a good time to do those things, see familiar faces, know that there is an advantage that some of the things I say, our fans know I'm not just saying them. They know that, they're actually going to do those things. We haven't been able to capitalize on that, but hopefully as we go forward, we'll be able to do some of those things.
Fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about your family. How'd you meet Lee? And are Ben and Jack interested in sports? A little bit about that. I know we briefly talked a little bit about your son before we got on live, but tell us a little bit about that storybook life of marrying Lee and raising two great sons, and now they're off to college.
Yeah. Well, Lee and I met. We were both coaching at Princeton, so she graduated in '92, 5 years after I did. So we never went to school together. but then we were both assistant coaches together. And I mean, when I was in that, we played every day. We played lunch ball every day. Coach Carroll would play, and the coaches, John Thompson would play, Bill Carmody, coach would play, and Leah would play. And so just through that experience, we met each other and got to know each other. And, you know, been very lucky to have a wife, partner, friend who knows basketball, knows what coaching is. She coached at Princeton. She coached at Arizona State. She coached at Dartmouth. She was a great player at Princeton herself. She was the all-time assist leader when she graduated. And so through the course of our time, you know, she's been just, you can't ask for a better partner because she knows what's going on, and she knows it at its core, you know, so she's really been able to help keep me grounded at all times. And, you know, as it relates to our two sons, both our sons were born here. So we do have a real connection to this place. And
yeah, they have the birth certificate, huh?
Yeah, they're both born here. And, you know, they, like you said earlier, time flies. Ben's in college at the University of Georgia, freshman. Jack's at a school in New Jersey, a prep school, a good academic school and basketball school. And they're doing really well. I feel for Ben during this time, trying to be a freshman in college with this, with the pandemic going on. But, you know, this guy, you know, all experiences are good experiences. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that says the experience has to be a good experience to be a good experience. Like, there are things going on now that they're not the best, but I think somehow when we come out the other side, if there's some perseverance on people's parts, and you stick with it, and you stay with your values, you know, we'll come out on the other side, you know, better off for it. And we will have learned some things that hopefully make us better. And that's the view we're taking of Ben's freshman year of college, because I think that's the only thing you can do. But we're, like I said earlier, we're so happy to be back here. We're so grateful and thankful, and we're enjoying our time here. Like today, or 2 days ago and yesterday, well, you know, here's Colorado, and then Colorado Springs, and then you go today and here's Colorado Springs, you know.
From snow to sun.
It doesn't get much better.
Yeah. All right. Well, now we're going to have some fun things here before we close out. We're getting ready to close out. I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I want you to describe in one word these players that I'm going to mention that you've coached.
Ooh, wow.
Hey, and it's a pretty long list, so you're going to have to kind of be thinking.
Wow.
All right, the first player, and I loved him when he was at the prep school, Tim Keller.
I get one word?
One word. I'll maybe let you use a sentence if you want.
You know, I mean, I don't think I can. I mean, Tim Keller, to me, I'm so close to him still to this day. You'll see him, Joe, in the next month, 2 months. He's coming out.
I texted him tonight to say, hey, try to get on if you can.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to come up with one word or two. Genuine. I got one word. Genuine.
Okay. Jacob Birchie.
I got like nails, just tough as nails. Winner.
And he was a great player, and I think he was one of your first recruits, if I remember right. AJ Cool.
I mean, so very similar to Birchie, but I'll say for him, fortitude, ability to stay with something, you know, just a persistence.
I like this player, and we stay in touch quite often from the time he was at the prep school. Antoine Hood.
He stays in touch with me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, one word. Let me see what I can say. Belief. Belief. He believed. He believed in himself. He believed in what we could do, and that was really important to our team.
Nick Welch.
Yeah. You know, what's the, I don't want to say underdog, but like that underdog spirit that just knows I'm not an underdog.
Right.
They say I am, but I'm not, you know, like that same type of belief in himself, and a grit to just fight all the time. You know, you go back, he's playing Rafael Araujo, 7 foot,
Yeah.
200 and whatever. And here's Nick, and no back down whatsoever. He just knew, you know, but, and liking and enjoying it, you know.
Yep. Joel Gerlach.
He, you know, he and AJ Cool, they stayed with it and stayed with it and stayed with it. You know, one word would be, again, I would just say a constancy. He was there every day, whether it was good, bad, there was Joel, and, you know, he just stayed with it. And at the end, he really became, I mean, Joe, I remember this, what you asked, like when the light bulb went on. I remember one play against New Mexico at home late in the year. We're up 1. And I remember the kid's name for New Mexico, Mark Walters. He was this athletic 6'3" kid. He's driving for a wide open layup, and they're going to win the game because we're up 1. And out of nowhere, Joel Gerlach shows up and just has like one of the greatest blocks I've ever seen in my life. And, you know, I make a joke to this guy. Yeah, I'm a good coach. No, Joel Gerlach's a good player.
Yeah.
Joel Gerlach.
Sometimes you got to have a little bit of luck too. You know?
Well, and he made it happen. And
yeah,
he just, he was a special, you know, special kid.
Dan Nwele.
Those guys were the younger guys on the team. You know, Danny, they were like the right blend, those younger guys with the older guys. They brought like an exuberance. So I would say for Danny, like an exuberance. You know, he had a great smile, and obviously he could shoot, but he had a great way. He had a great way about himself.
How about Matt McGrath?
You know, Matt was sort of like a competitor, just a competitor. You know, that's what he was. He was a competitor. And he, you know, he got the most out of what he had, which was a lot, but not a lot of flash. No, just like that competitiveness.
Tim Anderson.
You know, I mean, I remember recruiting Tim, and I said to my staff at the time, I'll call him the thief. One word, thief. He stole more balls and got his hands on more balls than anybody. He had such a knack for, you know, you don't teach those. He just had that knack, and the way we played defense was tailor-made for a guy like that. He was smart, and he got his hands on so many balls.
Tommy Belair's.
Yeah. Again, Tommy Belair's, you know, Bernard Jenkins, those guys did a lot of the heavy lifting. You know, they lived through hard times. You know, again, I think they're all the same words we're going to say again, like the grit, the perseverance, stayed with it. Things weren't great, but there he was again. He's still here, and he's still giving everything he has. And to this day, Joe, he's still giving everything he has.
Yeah.
You know, he's our officer rep. He's a lieutenant colonel, and he's helping our program. And it just shows you what kind of person he is.
Lamona Yazzie.
Yazzie, tough. I just saw him We played Arizona State last year. Lamona
Okay.
came with the whole family. I got him tickets to the game, came with
Fantastic.
wife and stayed after and talked to him. And, again, I think you're epitomizing our whole conversation when it comes to, what I've tried to say is those are our greatest strengths. I'll use, toughness, the grit, the perseverance, the underdog thing that was Lamona. He didn't care. He was going to fight you to the end. And that's got to be our greatest strength when we go back to build this team. If that's what the basis of our program is, our program will grow. And those guys were the guys that made the program grow.
And I know you don't have to give a description to put them out there, but some of your current players that are returning, and I'll just mention them: AJ Walker, Chris Joyce, and Amika Akaye.
Yeah. One thing I'll say about all our guys, what I've been really happy with is, as we try to re-energize the program, AJ's the one exception. He's played a lot, consistently. But generally, there's a disappointment in our players, and there's a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. I think that they want to show that there's more to Air Force basketball, and they've exhibited it in their response to me and my coaches. They've been unbelievable. They've been so receptive. They're enjoying getting coached, and we've made a lot of progress. And AJ. All these guys, Joe, they just they got to take more responsibility. They got to take more ownership, for our team to take a step. They have to realize, and I tell them this, that everything we do, they're understanding it. They're knowing why, how and why, but they got to really take responsibility for it every day. And if they can do that, then I think these guys, AJ and Chris Joyce and Keaton Van Solen and Amika, if they take that responsibility in conjunction with what we're doing, I think we have a chance to see a jump, in them individually, but more importantly in our team.
And talking about your team, one question that one of our guests asked: were you able, based on coming in March, able to get any direct entry players into the program this year?
I mean, we were able to. We have 3. Obviously, with the way the process works at the academy, 2 of them were sort of in the fold and moving along, and we did our best to due diligence to see, and then they were far along. So my feeling was, it's Air Force, it's the academy. It's more than basketball. These guys are pretty deep in it. So we did our homework, but they wanted to be here. So we want guys that want to be here. The guys that want to be here, they do well.
Yeah.
They do well. And then we had one that we sort of, on our own, we were able to get one guy to get involved and get in there, get a direct entry. And then we were able, with the prep school, we were able to get a good 6 or 7 guys added down there. So, I think given the circumstances with the pandemic and not being able to go watch guys play and wasn't normal, I was pretty happy with the way our recruiting went this spring.
All right. So we're going to kind of wind this down here on some fun type of question. What's your pet peeve?
That's my pet peeve. In this day and age, my personal pet peeve is people, the thought that since someone said something, that makes it true.
Okay.
Just because someone says something doesn't mean they're doing what they said. It doesn't mean it's true. The easiest thing in the world is to say something. The hard thing to do is to do what you say. And I think you see that a lot today in a lot of different areas.
What's your favorite cocktail or beverage of choice?
I pretty much am I like wine. Wine is I'm a Cabernet
Okay.
Cabernet Sauvignon guy. As time has gone in life.
My wife Tammy and you would hit it off
Nice.
well. She's a Cabernet Sauvignon person.
All right, well, tell her to give me a couple, good selections. I'll pass
All right,
on
we will.
mine.
What's your favorite movie?
Godfather.
Yeah. Mine's Hoosiers.
Hoosiers. All right. I mean, that's up there. But to
What's
me,
your
Godfather.
favorite?
I'll give you my top three.
Top three, okay.
Godfather, The Sting, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Hey, I watch Godfather all the time. All the sequels. What's your favorite snack? If you're just snacking on something, what is your go-to snack?
I'm a chip guy. I'm potato chips.
All right. And if you and I were dining at a restaurant, what's your favorite main course?
I'm a big Italian guy, so I'll give you right. Get it down. Rigatoni amatriciana.
Okay. So I'm going to give you. You might have gone to this place when you were here the first time. Have you ever frequented Roman Via?
Roman Via. I just drove by it the other day again.
Yeah.
For the first time, I was going down Nevada.
Yeah.
Looked right down my right.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying, okay, I remember that place.
You got to hit that. I mean, if you want some great homemade,
yep,
it's been there for 50-some years.
Forever, I know.
And matter of fact, it was the favorite place to eat from Reggie Mitten. He was when he coached, he loved to go to that place.
Yeah.
What is something that rarely anyone knows about you?
I mean, it's probably nothing, but what I would say is, all those pictures or images, say that you think, oh, that he's so intense. I remember being here the first time, like, just a regular guy that I like to go home and see my wife and kids. And I'm really not that, not, you know what I mean? I enjoy doing what we're doing right now, just talking and my life's not wrapped up in that. I love basketball, but like I've said to our players already and my staff, like, you need balance, you know what I mean? You need the balance of other things in your life. And that makes you love the thing you really love more, you know what I mean? The more you just make it be about, again, in this day, basketball, you see these coaches, I mean, it makes the kids hate. It makes the kids hate, hate what they're doing.
So you have that ability to leave it at the gym and relax at home. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Good thing. And the last question before we break off and do a cheer with our drinks. I know you are a great thoroughbred horse racing fan. So who do you think is going to win the Preakness, and who did you think was going to win the Kentucky Derby?
Well, I thought Tiz the Law was going to win the Derby. I thought there was no way. And that horse Authentic had won the Haskell at Monmouth, which is where
New Jersey, yeah.
Right, and struggled to do that. So I did not think at all that horse was going to be able to do what it did at 1.25 miles. But I actually believe if every horse stays healthy, that Tiz the Law is going to win the Preakness. I just think the horse is a really good horse, and the way things go, and since people do better, and I think the price will be better.
It might not even be the favorite now. So
might not be the favorite, correct?
But Joe, we thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to be with us tonight. I know I'm looking forward to, and I know many of our fans here in Colorado Springs and some of my alumni classmates that are still here are looking forward to that resurrection of Air Force basketball, and we can't wait to see it because we remember those glory days. I've been here since 1999, and those 2 or 3 seasons were exciting to see and exciting to be in the stands to watch it. And I have confidence that you'll be able to get us to where we need with this basketball program. So very thankful that you're here in Colorado Springs, that your family's here, and that you're leading the Air Force basketball program. And I'd like to end the show with a toast to you, Joe.
Cheers.
And
Yep.
cheers. And we look forward to your success and leading our basketball program and being an important part of our community. So God bless you and your family for being here, our cadets and our Air Force basketball program. And we wish you great luck and hope to see you soon.
I hope to see you soon. I appreciate you doing this. Cheers to you. You know, I know there's a lot of people in the area that I'm looking forward to actually being able to see face to face. A lot of familiar faces that I know I'm going to recognize and, you know, that have reached out. But I can't wait to when we can do that, you know. So I'm looking forward to when we can do this in person, and
Most definitely.
anything going forward where you think can be a good thing for us and our program in the community, since, like you said, you've been here, you know, that long a time, and other people, you know, in the community, you let me know. Please reach out, let them know to reach out to me, and we'll do whatever we need to do to make sure Air Force basketball gets re-energized and we get it going in the direction we all want to go.
All right, Joe. Well, thank you for your time. Enjoy your weekend, and I look forward to seeing you in person here very soon.
All right, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Joe.
All right.
Have a good night. Bye.
You too.